Hello, and welcome to TESS Orientation for Keller ISD. I'm Angie Nafa. I am one of the directors of human resources here in Keller ISD. We're so grateful that you're here, and we're excited to bring you on board to work with us this school year. So we're going to dive right into TESS Orientation first and foremost. This is for teachers, those serving in that teaching role. So if you're a counselor, a nurse, a paraprofessional, certainly if you're just interested, by all means, continue on. But this is only required as part of the teacher evaluation systems. So TESS is the Texas Teacher Evaluation System. So that's what we're required to use, unless you go through a big lengthy process with your school board to have something different. It's designed to focus on feedback and support. People get really nervous with the word evaluation and all of this, but it's really designed to be the very best teachers are going to get feedback and an opportunity to grow. And then those of us that are still learning and really just on that trajectory to be the very best teacher, there's an opportunity for growth there as well. So it is for everyone to grow and feel supported. It's not a checklist. There's no way to go, well, I did this, and this. I did all the things they asked me to do, check the boxes, I get a gold star. It's really not that kind of evaluation. So if we go into it thinking, oh, I need an A+ and I needed to get all of the checks in the right boxes, that's not what this evaluation system is designed to do. And it's very difficult to do that. It's designed really to improve your planning, your instruction, the learning environment, the opportunities we provide to our students, and our professional practices and responsibilities. So keeping that in mind, there's a process, a cycle we'll go through the whole year. So at the beginning of the year, you're going to have orientation. Check. You're doing that right now. There's a goal setting meeting that you'll have with your principal or the appraiser assigned to you. That could be an assistant principal. You'll set some goals and establish a professional development plan. So moving on into the school year, you're going to decide, okay, I need to schedule my observation. You'll have a pre-conference with your appraiser. So you'll talk about, I'm going to teach my unit on fractions. I don't make something up, whatever you teach. And you're going to talk about kind of maybe your TEKs, what you're going to do, how you'll assess your students. You might want to share something special about your classroom, whatever's appropriate. You'll do that a few days before your observation. You'll teach a lesson in which your appraiser, your principal, your assistant principal will come in, view that lesson, and then you'll set a conference to have some feedback about that lesson. You might also touch base on your goal for the year, and anything else that maybe you have questions about or wanting feedback regarding. And then fast forward to the end of the year, you're going to summarize the year, how you've done, and then share your evidence for Domain 4. This will make a little more sense as we get into the rubric next, for those of you that are not as familiar with TESS. So this is an overview of the rubric. There are 4 domains, and within those domains, there's different dimensions. So you'll see planning, instruction, the learning environment, and then professional practices and responsibilities. That's going to come at the end of the year. When your principal or your assistant principal comes into your classroom for your observation, you'll be scored, rated, really, on your planning, instruction, and learning environment. And then the professional practices and responsibilities comes at that end of year conference. So thinking about this, each domain has different dimensions. And so you'll see things, for instance, communication under the instruction domain is often referred to as 2.3. It's in the second domain and the third bullet point. So these are the areas that we look at through the TESS lens. And in a minute, I'll show you where you can access the TESS rubric. But this is spelled out very detailed each one of these areas. So this is an example. 2.3 communication. That's in the instruction domain, dimension 2.3. And we always want our eye to go directly in the middle to proficient. Proficient feels like a word that is like, it's okay, it's average. I would encourage you can do it right now, take out your phone, find some synonyms for proficient, and you will see, I actually think accomplished is one of those. So I'm not really sure about that, but proficient is used in all the evaluations in Texas for teachers. PDOS, when it was TTOS before, might be dating myself, but that's the rating that's required. So don't think about that word if it feels less than great to you. It is a really, really solid foundation for teaching, and that's where we want people to be. There's not expectations for people to be distinguished. Sure, do we want to grow towards that? Absolutely, but proficient is really what we're looking for. So when you're really deciding what is communication as it relates to instruction on the TESS model, go right to the proficient and look there. That's kind of going to give you the basis for what we're looking at. And then you can see developing. We're all developing in ways as we grow in what maybe you're teaching a new content area. Maybe you're in a new grade level, a new campus. Obviously, you're in a new district. So you have things that maybe you're growing into, and that's okay. And so you can really see the differences when you look at the language. If you look at improvement needed, it says is sometimes unaware or unresponsive, rarely. Then you move into developing and you see limited ability. You might see the word some, minor errors. And then when you get to proficient, that's kind of like the baseline, so to speak. So you maybe use probing questions to clarify and elaborate on the learning. And then as you go to accomplished and distinguished, you'll see things like skillfully, anticipates, strategic. You just see a little bit more descriptive language that would lend itself to real expertise in the area. So this is what you really want to look at, and this is what your appraiser will use to rate you in these domains. And so there is a page for each dimension, and it spells out exactly what that looks like. There is not a need to become an expert in the rubric. You want to become an expert in your content area and in your teaching abilities and in your ability to relate to students, all the important stuff. So, use this as a guide, but please don't spend too much time worried about all the pieces of it. Practice your craft. Let's fast forward to that pre-conference. I think this is one of the best parts of the evaluation process in which some of you are going to work at some elementary schools where you might see your principal almost every day because it's a smaller campus and maybe your duty station in the morning is right next to the principal's. And some of you are going to work at one of our really, really huge high schools that's so big and your class might be way up here and you might not see your appraiser or your principal as often as someone that's just located differently in the building or at a smaller campus. So this is the opportunity for you to share what is going on in your classroom. For instance, you might have gotten a new student the day before. Maybe you still don't know why he doesn't want to come out from underneath his desk. Maybe you have worked really hard the entire year with a student to build a relationship, and you know what kind of that shutdown behavior looks like, or if I just let her get up and go pick her own, pencil or whatever. All you guys are so great at putting in strategies for kiddos, and sometimes they're the weirdest ones and they work the best. I had a kid who wore these little cat ears, and if she had them on, she felt great and wonderful, and so be it. Didn't care. She was learning and she wasn't disrupting others. So maybe you want to say, hey, when you see her wearing her little cat ears, just know like it's all good. Okay, so you can share things about your classroom, your students that maybe your principal might be looking, why is that kid under the desk? Well, if in a few minutes they're going to just come on out. They just need their own time. And I don't know if I go over there and say something that, things are going to go south. So listen, just do your best to communicate to your principal or your assistant principal what's going on in your classroom so that they have an understanding and they know. Not that they're going to think, oh my gosh, you didn't tell me that and that's terrible. They just might be wondering. And so this is a really great opportunity to share that on the front end or to ask questions. Hey, I know you've been asking us to do this. Would you mind giving me some feedback on that? Because I'm trying to get better at asking questions or whatever it is. All right, then you're going to do your observation. Listen to me, all the new people. And if we were all together on this Zoom, I would say, and can the veteran teachers please just say, yes, she's not lying. Do not wait until February, March to schedule your observation. You will be sad. And I know a lot of you are still working on taking certification tests, getting your alternative certification. You have modules. Maybe you have, you're going to graduate school. You have all these things. You will not be happy in the spring doing this because there's this thing that people say in schools that when we have like a minute to breathe or when things slow down, no, that doesn't happen in schools. It just doesn't. So there's some guidelines to the appraisal calendar about not doing it in the first 3 weeks of school or after orientation or whatever. I'm not saying to run out there and you have to do it the first day it opens, but October, November is a really great time. I promise you will want to do it sooner rather than later. And then if there's something that you need to work on or grow in, there's an opportunity to demonstrate growth and improvement, as opposed to rolling up to the end of the year and going, whoa, wait, that, the spring has its own kind of chaos. All right. So then after that, within 10 working days of the formal observation, you'll sit down with your appraiser and they're going to give you some feedback. They're going to focus on an area of refinement and an area of reinforcement. So the reinforcement, wow, how do you decide to group your students? They work so effectively together, tell me about that. And then an area of refinement. I know you're really working on how might you better be able to call on more students when you're working or have less time between your transitions, whatever that looks like. You'll visit and have a really good conversation. And then after that, they'll share the ratings with you. And that'll all be in Eduphoria. And then at the end of the year, we will move towards the end of year conference. So domain 4, your principal comes in domains 1, 2, and 3, looks at the lesson, observes it, gives you feedback. This one, you're going to share your evidence for domain 4. That's going to be professional practices. Do you follow the campus rules? Do you have good attendance? Do you call parents back? Do you interact well with your teammates? Do you contribute to your team, your campus, the district as a whole? And that's kind of where you can think what distinguished looks like versus proficient versus improvement needed. Take a look at that language and you'll see things like not only is someone really having a strong impact in their classroom in a positive way, they also maybe are impacting a department, a campus, even the district. So everybody's at a different place in where they are looking to grow. And there is no expectation for those of you that are just joining us for your first year of teaching in what I would say is the very best profession. I'm starting my 25th year here in Keller ISD. So I truly believe it and believe in the work that you're going to do. You're going to be in a different starting spot spot than those of us that have been doing this for a really long time. And so you're measuring against you, no one else. So you'll talk about the year, how you did. Maybe your principal's done a few walkthroughs and I'm like, man, when in September, I know you were really working hard on your routines and procedures. And now in the spring, I really see that paying off. All of those things are going to happen in that conference. Then after they hear about, so tell me, what have you done, this year to support whatever, in those professional practices and responsibilities, then you will share, maybe, well, this year I took on planning science for the team so that alongside, the team lead or whatever, and you're gonna talk about that. And it's really unique to you. It does not need to be a laundry list. You don't need to write down everything that, I went to TESS Orientation. Okay, well, everybody did. Like, you're really highlighting the work that had a positive impact in your classroom or campus. So, and then you'll start talking about your goals for next year. So since you're new and you weren't here for the end of your conference, you didn't have that, but as we move forward, it kind of wraps into that end of year conference. So it just is that kind of continuous loop of improvement. So you'll talk a little bit about that and go on about your day. And then your principal or assistant principal will score, developed or developing, proficient, whatever the rating is. We'll put that in there and share it back with you through Eduphoria. We have an electronic signature component in Eduphoria. What we'll want you to do is set up that electronic signature by filling out your profile, and you have to select security questions. So you have to go through that to make that electronic signature. So if you're interested in a full copy of the rubric, I will post some of the resources out there, but that's also a site in which you can go. There's way more things on there than, and they could really be helpful to your teaching. So check it out. On behalf of our team, we are here to support you so that you can do the great work that we know you're going to do for our students. I hope you have a really, really great, outstanding year.